Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Con Variety Show, a channel where games are played, movies are reviewed, and life is reevaluated. In this episode, we are reviewing the original Star Wars, A New Hope. Now, the other two originals, prequels, and sequels will not be reviewed in this particular video because we're saving those movies for another time. But right now, we are beginning with the original three movies, the best movies out of the bunch. These movies are what I would personally classify as perfect movies. Each and every movie is interesting in its own way in this trilogy, and it's exciting to watch them until they're not. However, I'm reviewing each movie separately and explaining what is good about them and bad about them, because there are some weird things in each. So buckle up, buttercups. This is about to be an emotional roller coaster. Star Wars A New Hope is basically a perfect movie. It is interesting in every way you can think of. Problems and all. But since I'm mean, I'm going to address what I don't like about these movies. The 2010 CG. Now, this isn't even a movie problem that happened in when it came out, so it doesn't affect the score of the movie. But it ticks me off knowing that I can't watch the movie in its pure form legally anymore. So we're stuck with some stupid CGI aliens the whole movie in various scenes, especially Mos Eisley. But other than that, this movie is pretty much perfect. The beginning of the film hooks the audience in right away and begins with a chase. We're then introduced to two robots that escape in a pod down to Tatooine when a princess gives the blue one something important. Soon, they're being sold to a man and his nephew is the one, the only, Luke Skywalker, played by Mark Hamill. Luke Skywalker is introduced perfectly in this movie. He's brought in to help his Uncle Ben with droids and buying them. George Lucas was originally going to introduce Luke in earlier scenes, but those scenes go nowhere, and it's really boring. So I'm glad they introduced him here instead of there. And what's even more interesting is once Luke is introduced, the story is explained in a good way. The audience understands what the other characters are saying without even knowing much about what's going on. In this movie, Luke doesn't know anything about the war happening on different planets, and we're led into it in the other movies more than this one. Ben Kenobi gives a pep talk about what the Force is to Luke and what its purpose is, which makes the audience awe in wonder and interest. This movie is just perfect. And in Mos Eisley, we are given, in my opinion, the best character in this movie, Han Solo, a space smuggler that Luke and Ben go to for a ship to rescue the princess from the bad guys. Han is really smug and sassy in these movies, and that's really what makes him work. He's also kind of a douchebag, like when he takes Greedo out with his gun when he's about to get killed himself. But that's a great feature for a smug space pirate. Also note the story arc and character arc in this movie is just the best. Each character and idea is given personality in character traits, which can't be said for some of the other characters in this saga. In the beginning, we think Leia is a fragile princess, but when she's introduced more, she turns out to be a huge annoying brat. The characters in this movie are just so good. Darth Vader is probably the best villain in the whole franchise, and we're given more and more about him as the trilogy goes forward, including the fact that he's Luke's inevitable father. But that's for the next review, so stay tuned. Ben Kenobi's character is built really well in the story, and the audience's heart is torn with Luke's as he dies. We feel the characters in the story, and I love it. The story in this movie is complete, and even when you don't know what's going on in the movie at first, you're still wondering if the protagonist will succeed in what they're trying to do. The dialogue in this movie is also really good for a Star Wars film directed by George Lucas. So enjoy this dialogue before we get into some real bad dialogue soon.
Will you defer your motion to allow a commission to explore the validity of your accusations?
And I shouldn't even need to explain why I like the final battle. It's just too good to talk about. Overall, I think this movie is just perfect in every way possible. The characters are perfect, the story is perfect, the protagonists are perfect, the antagonists are perfect. I could go on and on. This movie was the birth of a whole franchise and a whole movie fan base that is so iconic, you may never even meet a person over the age of 10 who doesn't know what Star Wars is. With all this being said, I'm rating Star Wars A New Hope a 10 out of 10. Next week we are going to be watching Empire Strikes Back and reviewing that movie. And does it hold up to its bar? No, because it's actually better.